Right, so this is part 4 of What If Female Deku with Kaguya, and I'm sorry that this one's been on pause for a while. I just have a very bad habit of starting things and never finishing them. So I believe last time we left off was after the sports festival when Kaguya had her children, Hagoromo and Hamura. So, hold on, I'll check if it was after or before the sports festival. Give me a minute. Alright, so after the sports festival, I just found out. So, Kaguya is still in the hospital, but she's still recovering, and Hamura and Hagoromo are still getting checked on. As Aizawa does stay with Kaguya a majority of the time, whenever he's not at his hero work. So, oh yeah, and Gran Torino does visit her, and visit his grandkids as well. As Gran Torino would say that Nana would be very proud of from where she came, of what she became. As Kaguya would state that she would be very proud. As we then move on to when Kaguya eventually gets out from the hospital, as we then get on to the training camp. Actually, no, hold on, before that, Kaguya does visit Mitsuki and Inko, as she does take Hagoromo and Hamura with her, as Mitsuki and Inko are just all over those two. As Mitsuki and Inko ask if they could hold Hagoromo and Hamura, as Kaguya doesn't really see a reason that they shouldn't, since she's known them for a while. With Hagoromo and Hamura eventually falling asleep, as when Kaguya is about to leave, Katsuki ends up opening the door, as he's wondering why the hell is the teacher of the Class 1B extras in his house. As Mitsuki would smack Katsuki on the back of the head, as she'd say, "Katsuki, be more respectful. She's the number 2 hero, for crying out loud." As Kaguya would say, "No, it's fine. I'm not in my hero attire anyway. I'm still in my civilian clothing. So to everyone out, I'm still civilian, technically." As Bakugo sees that Kaguya is holding 2 children, as he asks, "Who the hell are these brats?" As Kaguya would basically give Bakugo a death glare, as she would say that they are my children, and I'd like you to refrain from talking to them like that unless you want your insides on your outsides. As Bakugo would be creeped out by this, as he would back down, as Kaguya would then say to Mitsuki that she should probably head back home, as Kaguya begins to float and fly off. And as she's flying, she's constantly thinking. Since the training camp is coming up in a couple days, she's thinking, should she take Hagoromo and Hamura with her, or should she let Gran Torino look after them? As you would think, well, Mandalay is currently looking after her nephew, so I don't think it'd be a problem if I let her look after Hagoromo and Hamura. And as she's thinking about this, a villain does try to attack her, but since her Rinne Sharingan is open, she puts the villain into a genjutsu and basically traps them in her hair. As she then drops that villain off in a prison, as she then heads back to her and Aizawa's estate. I should fly back down, where she would float down to her house, as she would then open up the door, with Aizawa basically greeting her back. With Kaguya discussing with Aizawa if she should take Hagoromo and Hamura with them to the training camp, with Aizawa going over all the good and bad ideas. But since they will have since Kaguya will be there on site on the training camp, and since she's the number 2 hero, they should be fine. So they'll be taking Hagoromo and Hamura to the training camp, but Kaguya won't be in the bus with them. She'll be in a car. She'll be driving there behind them, behind the bus. Sorry about that. Give me a minute. Here we go. As we then cut to when they're going to the training camp, as Aizawa is loading everybody up onto the bus, and Kaguya is loading Class 1B onto the bus, as she would say that she won't be on the bus with them, so she expects them to be on their best behavior. So, as Kaguya looks over to Kendo and says, "Kendo, you're in charge while I'm not on the bus." As Monoma would say, "What? Why?" As Kaguya saying, "She's shown the most responsibility out of all of you, and she's basically like the mother, the oldest sister to the entire class. So why not?" As Kendo would say that she won't let her down, as Kaguya would say that's good. As she would then head into the car that's behind the bus that has Hagoromo and Hamura with in there. As once the buses start to leave, Kaguya begins to follow behind them in the car, as they would continue driving until they get to the cliffside. As Kaguya would say that it's been a while since she's done this, so what if I just do this? As she would put her hand out and open up a little dimensional rift that took her to where the main facility in the training camp was, where she goes in the portal on the highway, as while Mandalay and the rest of the Wild Pussycats are setting everything else up, a portal opens up as a car drives through, with the Wild Pussycats being on guard, as Kaguya would end up opening the door. She would stand outside of it, as Kaguya would say, "Mandalay, how have you been?" As Mandalay would say, "Kaguya, it's been so long." As Mandalay would respond to Kaguya's question with that she's been doing great and what about her, with Kaguya saying, "Oh no, it's been nothing. I've just been being a teacher for Class 1B. It is very stressful, because I have to deal with someone like Monoma, whose ego is already through the roof. And the fact that he's being taught by me made his ego go even higher. With Kaguya then opening up the back doors of her car, as she would then take out Hagoromo and Hamura, as Mandalay would say that, who are these two, as Kaguya would say that these are my kids, Hagoromo and Hamura. As Mandalay would say, those are quite long names, a lot like yours. As Kaguya would say, well, I'm quite a fan of long names, so here we are. As everybody, as a couple of hours would pass, as Aizawa would arrive at the training camp, as Kaguya would ask, where the heck are her and his students? As Aizawa would say that they were dumped off in the forest. As Kaguya would look at Aizawa and say, "You what?" When she first appeared, and Sasuke was about to attack her with her hair like rising up, with Aizawa saying, "Well, it's a good training experience," and Kaguya responding with, "They're still children, Shota." And Aizawa immediately gets scared because Kaguya only calls him by his first name when he's messed up. As Aizawa would begin to panic as he would try to run, with Kaguya wrapping him up in her hair, as she would say, "Don't try to run, you'll make it worse." As Aizawa would say, "What's going to happen now?" Actually, no, Mandalay would ask, "What's going to happen now?" With Aizawa saying, "Okay, two possibilities. One, she's going to beat me up, or two, she's going to put me in a hallucination." As Kaguya would say, well, last time you messed up, I beat you up, so maybe the hallucination will work. With Kaguya putting Aizawa in a genjutsu, as she just leaves them standing there for a while. As once Class 1A and Class 1B arrive, she basically snaps Aizawa out of it. As Hagoromo and Hamura would have been put to sleep a while ago. As Class 1A would ask, how did Kaguya get here so quickly? As Kaguya would respond with, "I teleported." Once you know how to break through the dimensional walls, it's actually pretty easy to travel everywhere. as Kendo would say, as everybody would begin to say, would think, well, that sounds quite complicated to break through dimensional barriers. As the Wild Pussycats would go tell them what they did in canon, as Inko's kid. I don't know if I gave them a name, so if you have a name for them, put it in the comments. As Inko's kid would say their name, as they would walk up to Kota, as they would say their name and say that they're from the hero course in Class 1A, as Kota would immediately punch them right there where the sun don't shine, with Ida yelling at Kota like he did in canon, with Kota giving him the same response. As Kaguya would look at Mandalay, and then double back to Kota, and double back to Mandalay. As she would jokingly say, "Are you sure you two are related?" With Mandalay saying, Yep, pretty much." With them beginning their training the very next day, with Kaguya and Aizawa basically, you know, like those baby carrying things that you like have strapped over your torso and and like the baby just rests there. Yeah, that's basically what Kaguya and Aizawa basically have on them, and as Aizawa would take Hagoromo and Kaguya would take Hamura as they're doing their training. Hagoromo and Hamura are literally just sleeping without care in the world. With Kaguya initially arriving at Class 1B's training, as they would ask who's the child on that's basically on Kaguya's torso. As Kaguya would say that this is one of her twins, Hamura, as she would say that her other one is with Aizawa. As Kendo would ask out of nowhere and without her even thinking about it, ask who's the father. As Kaguya would say, take a wild guess. Long black hair and have a caffeine addiction. As they would think about it for a minute and then put it together, as they would all say in unison at once, Aizawa. As she would respond with, "Yep." As the Class 1A would have the same response as when they were guessing who the mother was. Because, Hagoromo's skin tone is sort of darker. It's a bit darker than Kaguya's, while Hamura's is the same as Kaguya's skin tone. Now, due to I'm pretty sure the Byakugan and the Sharingan being I set them as like a mutation on her. Hamura has the Byakugan, while Hagoromo has the Sharingan. So, while they're training, Kaguya has challenged a few of them to a few fights to test them, but she calls Tiger over, as she basically plops Hamura on Tiger, and she says, "Look after him. If I find him, and if I turn around and he's missing, I will deal with you personally, Tiger." as Tiger would be completely terrified because he knows what Kaguya can do in a fight. As he had fought her before, it did not end well. For Tiger, that is. As he would say, "Yes, I will be sure to look after this child." With Kaguya first going through Monoma, with her immediately taking him down with a shadow, with a I think it was it yin or yang that was the shadows? I think it was yang. Yeah, it was yang that was the shadows, I believe. As she'd immediately take Monoma down with a yang release jutsu. As she would then cycle through them all one by one until they were all defeated. As Kaguya would say that you guys are going to need to train harder because there will be villains. There are going to eventually be villains out there that will be stronger than me, and you guys need to be prepared for that eventuality. With Kaguya then turning around and seeing Tiger is sweating, but Hamura is still there. As she would say, "Tiger, thank you for looking after Hamura." As she would then meet back up with Aizawa. Aizawa, who's holding Hagoromo. As they then head in for the night, as Kaguya currently has Hagoromo and Hamura cuddling into her, while Aizawa is also cuddling into her. As that is where I'm going to leave it off. I do hope you guys enjoyed this return of Kaguya Deku, and later today I will be releasing part 3 of What Female Deku with Betty. So I'll see you guys later with that.